we should invite the next speaker. So I would take an opportunity to invite Professor A.K. Rai, former professor and head Department of Philosophy and Religion, BHU Varanasi. And the topic of the very presentation of Professor Rai is Perfection, Happiness and Spirituality, an observation on Advaitic orientation of Ācārya Rama Tripathi. You are most welcome, sir. Over to you now.
Okay. My friend, Professor Anand Mishra, the head of Department of Philosophy and Religion, BHU, and my friend, President of the session, Professor D.N. Tiwari, scholars, students, online and offline. Friends, I have to present my paper on my supervisor, Professor R.K. Tripathi, and time is allowed only 10 minutes. So what can I do? I can only give the life sketch of R.K. Tripathi, something about him and something about others. And then the paper is already there. It has 3 parts. One part is about perfection. The ideal is perfection for Tripathi ji. The second part is the philosophical part. The third part is how can philosophy of Advaita will be beneficial to others who do not follow the philosophy of Advaita. So the paper has the 3 parts. Now, I have only the academic relation with Professor R.K. Tripathi. But infrequently, he talks about himself and did not much talk about himself. But one of the suggestion is, his suggestion was that when you are criticizing others or when you are writing the comments, you should write prefix with "it may be," "it appears to me," not "it is wrong." So that was his suggestion whenever I am going to present my paper to him. The second is, you see, he was influenced by, though he submitted his thesis under the guidance of Professor S. Radhakrishnan, the President of India, but the real thinking bank for him was Professor T.R.B. Murthy. And he was influenced by 2 persons. One is, I have mentioned, Satish Chandra Mukherjee, who was living in Varanasi, who was the founder of the Dance Society, and a book was written by Subrato Guha, Rashtriyata or Swadeshi Andolan, 1998. It published by Subrato Guha. He was very much liked by Satish Chandra Mukherjee, who was the founder of Dance Society, and he was indirectly responsible for the establishment of the Jadavpur University. So he was hiddenly living in Varanasi, and he was influencing the teachers of the Varanasi. So Tripathi ji was very close to him, and the book was written on him, S.C. Mukherjee. And he has great connection. He was the class fellow of Swami Vivekananda, Asutosh Mukherjee, etc. And both were Malani, Professor Malani, Professor R.K. Tripathi, another professor, a professor of mathematics. Both, all these people were influenced by S.C. Mukherjee. So for the spirituality, R.K. Tripathi was influenced by S.C. Mukherjee, great S.C. Mukherjee. And for the thinking bank, he was devoted to whole T.R.B. Murthy. So the philosophy of T.R.B. Murthy is incomplete without the writings of R.K. Tripathi. In nutshell, I will say, unless you read the R.K. Tripathi, because you cannot understand the T.R.B. Murthy. So both are complementary to each other. R.K. Tripathi is complementary to the study of the philosophy of T.R.B. Murthy. So very hastily I am reading. So first point, he has taken that the aim of his life is the perfection of myself and the happiness of others. What is the perfection? Perfection is Yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktvatma suddhaye. Do your duty without attachment to anything. So this is the right way to be perfect. We have to perform the duty. There are two paths, the path of renunciation and the path of action. And those who are following the path of action, they should do the act, but for the purification of the self. And that was in this way he was influenced by the, but he accepts three stages. One is the natural stage, another is the moral stage, and third is the spiritual stage of Vedantic stage, where happiness and perfection coincides in Vedanta. But in the Kantian, you say God is brought to join the relation between perfection and the happiness. But that is not there. So this is the first part of the paper. Now I am going to second part. Second part is we are considering the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. And what is the Advaita Vedanta? In a nutshell, Satyam Brahma Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Na Para. This is in a nutshell the philosophy of the Advaita Vedanta. And in order to reach the goal of the Advaita Vedanta, we have to negate 5 types of illusion. 5 types of illusion we have to negate, and then we can realize the self. What are these 5 types of differences? The first is the difference between Ishwar, Brahman and the Jeev. So this is illusory. And in order to understand the clear-cut relation between Brahman and Jeev, we can take the example of the mirrors, gallery of mirrors, when a thing is projected differently in a plurality. So in this way, we can get rid of this type of illusion. The second is the second illusion is self is enjoyer, self is actor. How can we get rid of this confusion? We have to remember the simile of red flower near the crystal. Just as the crystal is appearing red, when a red flower is put along that, similarly the self seems to be enjoyer and actor, though it is not really actor and enjoyer. So this is the second example, negating the second, that self, we generally think that we are enjoyer and we are actor, but we have to. The third illusion is that the individual self is bounded by the body. And how can we negate this? We have to negate this. We have to remember the simile of the Ghatakas and Mahakas. So just as the Akas cannot be closed within the part, similarly the self cannot be closed within the parts. So by this, remembering this simile, we can negate the third part. And what is the fourth part? The word is the modification of the Brahman. That is another illusion. The word is the modification, just like the a seed is giving birth to a sprout. So in order to negate this type of illusion, we have to remember that just as the gold is same, but there are ornaments, there may be ring, there may be bracelet, but gold is not going to be changing. So by remembering this simile, we can negate this type. And lastly, we have to, the Brahm is the changing. Brahm is negated. Brahm and the world are both real. In order to negate this type of illusion, we have to remember the simile of rope and snake. By remembering the simile of rope and snake, we can get rid of this type. So in order to realize the Advaitic reality, we have to get rid of the 5 types of illusions. Then we can realize the Advaitism. Now, in this chapter, I have taken examples from the sciences also. I have quoted from the sciences also. I have taken Schrodinger, and I have taken demonstrated that how Schrodinger demonstrate that the Advaita Vedanta is solving the most of the problems, epistemological problems that arises. But I will not go into Schrodinger. I will quote only one thing from the Einstein. You see, one person wrote an book, There is No God, and sent to Einstein. Then Einstein told him that it should be titled as "There is no personal God," not "There is no God." And he, within quote, I am quoting Einstein, "We followers of Spinoza see our God in the wonderful order and lawfulness of all that exists in the soul as it reveals itself in man and animal. It is a different whether belief in personal God should be contested." Freud endorsed this view in his latest publication. "I myself would never engage in such a task, for such a belief seems to me to lack any transcendental outlook of life. And I wonder one can ever successfully render to majority of mankind a more sublime means in order to satisfy its metaphysical need." So both Schrödinger and Einstein are not negating the God, are transcendental God, God pervading the world. They are negating the personal God. So the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta has backup from the sciences also. In order to demonstrate this part, just as Tripathi is writing, Tripathi is criticizing others' view, and that is why. Now I am going to the third part, very especially. Here he has also what is the problem? What is spirituality? So he says that spirituality is the method of attaining permanent peace here on the earth. Spirituality is generally defined in terms of spiritual experience, but Tripathi does not want to define spirituality in that sense. How can we realize the cause of peace is not the external circumstances, not bias or sin, but the pride of ego. It is the ego that isolates and separates us, and we have to give up the ego. We see, so Ācārya Tripathi concludes that our ego is root cause of suffering. It cannot be denied. Desire to eradicate suffering is universal, yet the knowledge of root cause is not universal. Only those who have the awareness opt for spiritual means of tackling the ego. He could be beyond suffering. So we have to take care of our ego and try to be egoless. Try to be egoless. And there is a difference between spirituality and morality. You see, spirituality is the ornament of morality. There is nothing morally wrong in helping a man in desperate condition and praising oneself before others in absence of that man. But it is spiritually wrong to praise oneself for one's good action and others. Jainism teaches us self-praise is one of the cause of taking birth in its sinful clan. According to Buddhism, self-praise of one's own virtue is a sign of non-noble dharma. One of the great virtues of Lord Rama is not to boast his own glory. The great poet Kalidas beautifully describes Lakshmana drops Sita near the hermitage of the sage Valmiki in the forest to fulfill the order of Lord Ram. The sage Valmiki sheltered Sita and conveyed his emotion to her. "I have my wrath against the elder brother of Bharat, Ram, who has acted disgracefully towards you without any cause. Although he pulled out thorn of 3 words, although he is truthful resolve, and although he is free from the self-praise of his own virtues, Satya pratigye avikathanepi, utkhat loka traikantakepi, Satya pratigye avikathanepi, tvam pratyasmat kalusa pravityo asteva manyu bharata grajemi." Now, what is my point? There is nothing wrong morally in praising ourselves in the absence of others, but spiritually it is a very condemnable. That is why Ram is saying Satya. It is the quality of the Ram. It is the virtue of the Ram that he never praises himself. Sat avikathanepi. So that is the difference. So morality, there is a difference between morality and ultimately Tripathi ji invites us that spiritual life is the egolessness is spirituality, egolessness is peace. Spirituality cannot be denied or denounced so long as there is a man in the aspiration and urge for permanent peace. So if we want to attain permanent peace, we cannot deny the spirituality. That is the conclusion. The most of the papers, Ācārya Tripathi seems to be an exclusive devotee of Advaita philosophy, not bother about the contribution of other philosophers. but he finds an opportunity here for the role of other philosopher along with Advaita. He asks us to work together for the cause of inner and outer peace, to enhance the value of philosophy in the eyes of common people. The role of philosophy does not depend only on the content of philosophy like the sciences. It depends very much on the character of personality of the philosopher. Let us work, ask Ācārya Tripathi, not only to enrich the content of philosophy, but also for our own inner and outer peace, so that we become more meaningful for sustaining and transmitting the spiritual currents of different traditions to our future generation. Thank you all. Paper is over.
Thank you so much, sir. Is there any question? Is there any question in the audience? No? Okay, Rajan, please come. So there is a question. Please be with us. Give him the mic.
Always delightful to listen to Professor A.K. Rai. Sir, it is just a quest that when you mentioned that incident that there was a letter sent to Einstein regarding that there is no existence of God, and Einstein denied the very fact that there is no personal God, but there is some different kind of God. So I just want to, and you try to balance that the scientific God and the Advaitin Brahman both are similar. So I just want the question कि जब हम कहते हैं कि ब्रह्म एक थे और उन्होंने अनेक होने की इच्छा की, so what sort of desire is that? Can we compare the desire, or can we bring that sort of desire in the scientific realm, or that in the scientific God, or can we say that scientific God does not have any desire and that Brahman, that absolute, has that sort of desire? So I just want to.
Okay, follow your question. Now you see, when we are Eko Ham Bahusyam, So Akamya, all these are the expression of God. But here we are talking about the absolute, not about the God. And we see Spinoza has given a new logic for the Advaita Vedanta. So Tripathi ji wrote his thesis, Spinoza in the light of Vedanta. Spinoza in the light of Vedanta. And you see, and German Sanskrit, Theodor Goldstacker, Spinoza religious conception and Vedanta tradition, exact representation of the ideas of Vedanta. So in 19th century, the great Sanskrit of German, they are of the opinion that there is a parallel similarity. Madame Blavatsky, Max Muller, all these are saying that there is a great similarity between the Spinoza. And you see, Suvakamyat means we are asking for the teleology. And Spinoza gives logic that the world is not the product of the teleology. So teleological arguments must go from the philosophy of the Advaita. You must remember, when we are doing Advaita, we are going in a window. Then we have the teleology. Then it is determined by the very nature of the Brahman and very nature of the reality itself, just like the Spinoza. So Spinoza has given a different logic. And for the sustaining of the spirituality of the Buddhism as well as Hinduism, that we can do philosophy without the teleology. So all these are the phenomenal statements, and we have two superimposition on the absolute. And if you read the Schrödinger I have given, if you read the Schrödinger, he gives the example of Gauri Shankar. You just go on, and he praises the equation Atman versus. So he himself, he is the better commentator. You will not find any distinction between Malani, R.K. Tripathi and Schrödinger. If you read his writings, Tattvamasi, he has written an article on the Tattvamasi. So if you read this, you see how the great scientist, he was awarded Nobel Prize, and he was the one of the pioneer in quantum mechanics. And he is writing an Advaita Vedanta of Tattvamasi. You must remember this. So how they appraise this, and we should only thank them. Because if other tradition appreciate our tradition, then our tradition becomes more valuable, more universal, and more acknowledgeable. That's Johar.
Thank you so much, sir. It
So
was
it
a
is-
very
So it is only when we are going coming from the Aurobindo, we remember the teleology, and we are seeking teleology in Advaita, Vedanta, and Buddhism, and that is that creates the problem.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you so